Okay, well, welcome to CS Office Hours. We're excited to have you here. Today we have two people co-leading with me. It's Raia and Jeremy Donaldson. And they both are just a wealth of information, just walking around, wealth of information, but they've also built tools and they network with people regularly. So I'm just so excited, all the experience they bring to bear on this topic. And we were changing it up a little bit. We were starting off talking about it as prioritizing your time. All right. No, thank you, Google. Stop, Google. Anyway, sorry, I'm in a G household here. But we really realized as we were discussing this topic that we realized that this is a success plan that you're building and you're modeling all the time. You're modeling as you are digging into your job search, or when you're interviewing, any of the process. Really, you are modeling your role in CS, and so there you go. We'll dig into it now. So I did keep, though, prioritizing time in your job search over on this slide, but you'll see it's really a lot more. Why don't we start off, though, Jeremy? I know you wanted to talk about the schedule a little bit, right?
Yeah. So I love the tie-in, and I'm a firm believer in many of the CSMs I've had the pleasure of hiring in the last couple of years have done a really good job of modeling that success plan concept, whether they are transitioning in, right? They weren't a CSM previously or did something else, or they were already in a tech CSM role that we moved into that role. But a few things that, for me, and as somebody who's a 3-time job seeker in the last 12 to 18 months, I've had a lot of time to perfect some of these things, or at least get better at them. And the thing for me that stood out, when I got after the first time that I was laid off in my career, was I had a mentor of mine come to me and say, "This is your opportunity to pivot your career into a full-time job." Now I realize that we have quite a dynamic of individuals and backgrounds and where they are in their job search, and that's not always possible. But the more time you can apply, put into your job search, the more you'll see come out of the time and the effort that you're putting into it. Even if you only have an hour to commit to it, it's still an hour, better than not doing it at all, if that's what you're interested in doing. But if you're in a position where you have to look, is narrowing your search, and it starts with the mindset of, is now my full-time job to go find what I want to do next. And I'm a big believer. If I were to pull up my calendar now on work, you would see my calendar is almost blocked the entire day. But I plan my calendar for how I use my time, when I use my time. Am I networking? Am I applying for jobs? Am I reaching out to recruiters? Am I talking to recruiting agencies? Am I sending follow-up notes, right? I have times in each parts of my day that I want to do that. And I get really, I'll call it, really specific on what I want to do. So I think I have undiagnosed ADHD. So if anybody, any fellow ADHDers out there, and undiagnosed ones that, like me, that, you can get kind of squirrel brained, getting really focused and only giving myself one task that I have to complete, and half an hour or 45 minutes on my schedule keeps me focused on the things that are going to be most important to moving the needle. So for me, that's there's a lot of things in here, and we can dive more into thank yous and videos, but it's oftentimes the little things that are going to trip you up in the end. It's not going to be the big show or getting all those applications in. It's going to be the little things that are going to help you stand out between you and somebody else of equal qualification, or maybe even better, better qualification in that regard. So I had something I was also going to show you, but before we do that, Ty, I don't know if there's any comments you had around kind of schedule that you would like to add here.
I mean, Jeremy, you're pretty good at it, especially since we do very similar things. I would say the tracker that you build is probably exceptional, to the point where I'm probably going to steal some of them from your tracker going forward. So yeah, I think you got it on lockdown.
And so just so you know what we're referring to, like, there's a time boxing article here. There's the resources that they've built, we'll share with you here, links to it, but I'll show you here. So this is Jeremy's job tracker template. Do you want to just really quick walk through it? This is something that everyone can use or not use as you choose, but
Yeah,
this is
it should be a
resource.
sanitized, it should be a copy and sanitized version of the one that I use. But and what I'm going to say here before I kind of go through, I'm not going to go through every line on here, but this has been built on several iterations of looking for jobs. So if you're kind of starting out in your job search, please by no means feel like you have to jump in on the deep end, right? This has been an iteration of multiple things, but for me, it helped me stay organized on where I was in the process with companies that I was pursuing. And I actually further, something I'm working on for in the future that I don't have ready to review yet is I actually went even farther to like grade jobs based on my criteria of what I wanted out of a job. Which I'm looking to templatize at some point for the group, but
What
my
kinds of
daytime job
things,
comes to first.
but Jeremy,
But
what kinds of things did you discover were important to you that
yeah.
became like, these were my must-haves, these were my nice-to-haves, and how did you figure that out?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. So for me, I started with, I initially just started with like, what are who are the people I want to go work for? That was the first criteria. I said, if I could go work for anybody that I know or don't know and I've been following for a while, I love their content, or love their leadership style, who would it be? I actually made a top 5 list of people, said these would be where I started. Unfortunately, everyone on that list wasn't hiring. So, at that time, so I didn't go in that route, but I started there. I said, who do I want to go work for? And then kind of next to what are the industries I want to work in? So once I kind of targeted or narrowed in on an industry, then I would go and pick 5 companies, the 5 top players in that industry, or 5 growth players in that industry. Or if you're a startup, you love working for startups, like finding newer companies that are trying to get off the ground, kind of find your niche. For me, I'm in that, like, I'll call it healthy size, but not small, but not large, right? I kind of fit in that kind of middle category. And so I'm looking at the 15 to 50 million size companies versus a true startup and not the large, multi-$100 million organizations.
So thinking about the size of the company,
Yeah.
thinking about, is there a particular industry, thinking about, are there particular companies that are on my wish list that I want to work towards, some of those types of questions that help guide you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
And that's a great point. And I actually saw somebody in the comment make a comment of adding kind of I think it was kind of adding a priority tier, like where you tier stay. And I love that, right? That's a great addition to this that I didn't add, but it's 100% valid. But I kind of made my list of who do I want to work for? What companies do I want to work with? What industries, right? If it's a company I don't know, what industries do I want to be in? And I just kind of started making a target list. The point that I'm trying to drive at, though, is whatever your criteria is, make it as specific as possible, and start with your I want to be here kind of thing, and then gradually expand your criteria based off of that. And so I tracked everything: the company, the title, if I've applied, if the compensation range is listed, so I could prioritize based on that. If I had hiring manager details, if I knew people in my network, could I get a referral? Like all of those things, I actually use, and I'll share a post at the end of the meeting. Actually, I use that to produce data at the end of my most recent job search that actually gave me data into where was I producing the most success? Was it referrals? Was it applying? Was it in network? Was it sending video intros of myself? And so I was able to use that to refine my search. But the point is, I made a plan around what it is that I wanted to do, and then I went and executed it. And if I didn't have a lot of success in a very short amount of time, I pivoted and I tried something else. Right? I didn't stay on one strategy for 3 months. I pivoted after 2 or 3 weeks if I wasn't seeing success.
And Jeremy, I know too that when you put together like an intro video that said, "Hey, I'm Jeremy," sort of thing, and you posted it in a Slack channel and got some feedback from some other people, and that's something that people can do in our Slack channel as well. We have a cohort job search for leaders, for CSMs, for people transitioning into CS. And there's even times when they meet up each week. So if you want to try putting together an intro video post the Loom video or whatever it is, and I don't care about the brand, but it's all what came to mind. But so their marketing people are very good. But anyway, just and get some feedback from people and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, that's a great
And
point. And if a larger group isn't, find somebody that you can have a good
yeah,
sounding board off of. And I'll tell you, as a hiring manager, there's two things. They're really small things, but they will help you stand out in the application process. And that is your ability to have detailed and actionable follow-up, and not just a thank you note, but like being able to say, this is how you would interact with a customer. What would you tell a customer after you've had an interaction with somebody, and what would those next steps be? And then if you're in an interaction with a hiring manager or a recruiter or a VP of CSM, whereas I'm looking at two things. Are you confident in who you are, and are you good at tying, doesn't matter your background, tying your background to what it is that you'd be doing in the role that you're applying for, and through the art of storytelling. Those two things to me, right, sharing kind of both sides of the coin as a job seeker and somebody who's hired, confidence and storytelling are hands down for me
right.
anyway, preferential above and beyond pretty much anything else that you can do in an interview to help you really stand out and go above and beyond.
And we will be talking about confidence and building your story September 12th. We'll dig into that a bit more, but so now, Ty, do you want to maybe just show us, you have a couple of resources here?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you guys can go through the list. I won't go through it in order. That feels silly. But what I will say is 2.5 years ago, yeah, I was a really big fan of Pray and Spray because it was getting good results. Today, unless you're doing 50 plus a day and you're the first 24, within 24 hours of that job listing, your chances there are really slim. So working your network is going to be a much bigger yield for your time and energy. And I get it. Like 5-6 years ago, my network was pretty slim, right? Like I was just starting to build it out, right? So if you're in a place where, you're searching, or you aren't in a position where you have to search right now, right, are both great opportunities to start building out your network. For me, like Jeremy mentioned earlier today, that he's very extroverted. I'm not, right? Like I'm very introverted. So it's more difficult for me to do like a lot of big stuff, right? Like groups like this are easy for me, but where I really shine is really one-on-one interactions. So I basically play to my strength, which is I start developing more one-to-one interactions with people. And if you don't reach out to those people to just, hey, I'd like to meet you. Hey, I'd like to do an, informational interview, any of those things, right? Like just taking that one extra step, even as an introvert, that can be a really good way to kind of step into building out that network. I will also say, just anecdotally, over the last 6 months or so, I can't tell you how many like VPs and directors I've talked to who said, hey, Ty, I opened up this job. I've got over 800 applicants within a day. Help me narrow the search. Do you have 3 or 4 people you can personally recommend? I can tell you in the last 12 months, I've helped place probably close to 6 to 7. So not a ton, but that's a lot. So you never know who in your network might be that opportunity. So make sure that you're keeping those networks up to date. If it's just a quick, hey, how are things going? Hey, I'd love to meet for 10, 15 minutes, and let them know what what's going on with you, and see if they might be able to help you out. Or if maybe they're connected to someone at a company that you're looking at, right? Maybe they can help make that soft intro for you.
But that's really interesting, because I know that before, when we were talking last November, we talked about, spray and pray as, a really effective approach in conjunction with networking. But now you're saying you got to do 50 plus a day and get them in the first 24 hours in order for it to even be seen and to be effective as part of your job search.
Pray and Spray's got even harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's not effective, right? I've certainly had results from it, but yeah.
I also found an article that I have in here, how to find unlisted jobs. So it is a recent article, so hopefully there's some good stuff in there for folks. What other kinds of things? I know that there's a lot of resources. And one other thing I was going to say before looking at what other people are sharing here is, if you have tiers A, B, C, you really, like, if you're just getting started with interviews and practicing, it's not a good idea to start with your A's. Start doing some interview practice with your B's and C's, right? And also there are often times, because then you'll get the hang of it. So by the time you're talking to the A's, you'll have your stories down. The other thing is that you always have to work on that pipeline of interviews. People get to where like, oh, I've got these 2 really great chances. I'm going to hold off. I want to focus on them. Don't do it. Don't do it. Keep going. The way that those 2 really good chances materialize is when you say, ooh, what's your timeline on this? I actually have some other people I'm interviewing with. I love you, really enjoying this process. I'm really interested, but I just want to check on what your timeline's like, because I've got these other, that I'm talking to as well. Always important to be able to say that.
So
Jeremy,
this
what were you
actually
going to
ties
say?
in.
And then we'll go to Elizabeth.
Yeah, so there was actually something as you're talking, like you're practicing and being present and being available. I think one of the things I hear from job seekers is, hey, I had this interview, they committed a time frame, it's gone past that time frame. Should I follow up, or
Mhm.
should I do that? And as a job seeker, you can't control how they're going to react to that, but you can control what you do. And if somebody gave you a hard time frame that they were going to follow up with you, you have every right to follow up with that individual and ask for an update, or say, hey, based on our conversation, you mentioned we would connect by Wednesday. It's now Friday, right? And where are we? You can be polite about it, but just as they need to, you need to be accountable to your own search. You need to be able to hold others who have given you hard commitments on things. So don't be afraid. I guess my point is, don't be afraid to, if something's not falling in the time frame, there might be circumstances going on that are delaying that, but it's also, you're within your right to ask for an update if they told you they were going to communicate something to you.
I would add, not just in your right, but treat it like you would a CSM. If you had a customer who's doing the same, you'd reach out to them. It's not always easy, but if you can't do it with something you're searching for, especially in the CSM role, right, that's going to tell them a lot about you as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you're always modeling the behavior that you want them to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
One last quick thing. I will say thank you notes. I know not everyone does them. I can't encourage them more. I've had jobs where I know the job that I have today is between me and one other person. I had very detailed, independent, like individual thank you notes, and that made the difference between me getting it and someone else. So they really do matter.
Awesome. Elizabeth.
Hi. I just wanted to reinforce something you said a bit ago about, using your network. I feel like I have a decent sized network, and so far in my search, I actually haven't found that many people that I'm directly connected to at one of the companies that I'm interested in working for. But like you said, if you can get, you can go to LinkedIn, go to the company, click on people. If you look at the different people in those roles, it'll show you, right, who you're connected to, and that someone that's connected to. And so reaching out to, even finding that is worth spending the time. But I've been just kind of really shocked by how many times I reach out to one of my contacts and I've just said, hey, can you facilitate an introduction? And that those people actually respond. Essentially it's a friend of a friend, or maybe distant connection, right? But there've just been a lot of strangers who've been willing to talk to me at a company about what it's like to work at that company. You can just kind of gather more information than you can just by doing research on your own. So definitely I'm trying to pay that forward in every way that I can, but don't be afraid. I mean, sure, some people just aren't on LinkedIn and may not respond, but I've had a pretty good success rate there. And it's just, those conversations are so helpful.
Awesome. Trevor.
Yeah, one thing that I'm curious about, I guess for the group as well as the presenters today, one of the things that I've been looking into, not as a job seeker anymore, but something that I feel like might have helped me and is potentially going to help me now, is something like almost like a personal CRM. Like there's products that exist now that can kind of help you track your network a little bit and help remind you if you need to check in on people, see how they're doing, you haven't heard from them in a while. I'm wondering what the thoughts are and things like that. I've heard it, both from things like maybe Dex, using Airtable, using Notion, a couple of other tools. Usually have to pay for it, but I'm wondering if anyone's had experience or if that is a worthwhile strategy of investigation for this.
Yeah, it's one of the tips I have on my tip sheet, actually. I mean, like all software, find the thing that works for you, right? I build them into my calendars as reoccurrings, like people I want to check in with, or, follow-ups. But yeah, there are tons of tools out there. I highly encourage it, right? Sometimes as a CSM, we get lost in our jobs and we forget to just say hi to someone, right?
And there's a lot of ways you can do it for free. Airtable has a free version. HubSpot has a free version. So anytime you want to sort of build out your database or CRM, so to speak, go for it. And it's good to do that at any time. Today is a great day to start that, with just who you're talking to today. Like you don't worry that you haven't been doing it for the last 20 years, 10 years, 6 months, like just start today. All right. The other thing that I wanted to be sure before we get into breakout sessions, which we need to go to, is just take time to hone your skills. This is important in lots and lots of ways. I'm going to be speaking at an AI and CS summit this Thursday. And, in this new world where we're, going to be using AI, it's important to hone your skills. When you're job searching, it's important to hone your skills. When you're working, it is important to hone your skills. It is just always important, reading books that are out there, whether they're specific to business or customer success or productivity or any of those things, certifications. It's not make or break a certification, but if you are transitioning into a new field, if you do a certification, it shows that you've taken the time to really engage. And so sometimes certifications are necessary. Like if you want to go into project management, I don't think we're there yet with CS, but I do think that it shows that you're engaged and you want to professionalize. There's all kinds of podcasts and articles and LinkedIn, all of those things. Also, if you're transitioning into CS or if you're transitioning up, if you're going from individual contributor to a manager role, listen to how people speak once they're in those roles. When you're thinking like a manager or an executive, you speak to different things, you care about different things than if you are an individual contributor. If you've never been in tech or in CS before, there's a lot of, jargon to learn. Understand what that jargon is so that you can embrace it and speak to it fluidly and accurately when you're in an interview. Otherwise, what happens is you get tripped up, and you don't want to be tripped up in an interview, right? So it's not the time to be tripped up. All right, let's go ahead and break out for 20 minutes here. These are going to be the questions. They're also going to be on this prompt here. So be sure to get it either in the chat or over in the Slack group, but the breakout so you can take the notes. But what resources do you use to gather information about companies? Want to be sure that we share that with each other. If you could ask for help on one thing related to your job search, what would it be? Or what was the one thing that helped you the most when you were doing a job search, if you're not doing one? And what is one thing that you can do to help others in their job search? And this applies to everybody, whether you have a job or whether you're looking, we can all help each other. And that's part of what we do in the cohort channels in the Slack channel is we're helping each other, but definitely we can exchange information there. And don't forget, there's also these resources here. So did everybody grab your notes here? All right, I'm going to stop sharing.
That was a fun breakout room, Jan.
Yeah, I saw some great notes. They're still being taken. People are reluctant to come back.
And
I
some
love
great,
that.
like we had great answers to those questions. I feel like those questions worked out really well.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad to hear it. All right. Oh, there's Nick. Hi, Nick. We were talking on your phone too. Great. Good. So we start to have people coming back.
Someone in their group has asked ChatGPT and Bard.
Mm.
That's a great one.
So comparing between ChatGPT and Bard, is that what you're saying?
So they specifically had what ask them what are different roles under CS teams, right? Like different titles to help with your search. But I think using whichever your preference really. Like I use it for self probably daily, right? I think that's a
we
great
talking AI and CS
all day.
Please talk to me more about it. I need more people to talk to about it.
Yeah.
Well,
with
there's a
the
summit all day Thursday about it.
Is there?
Yeah, Matic. I've been posting about it, so you'll see it if you look in my posts. But if you go to the Matic probably website or something, you'll see it too. See if we can get some posts. I'll post about it. Oh, you know what? We have an AI and CS channel in our Slack channel where
join the channel.
Sarah C, you should be in there. You know a ton about this.
Yep.
I'm getting ready to start blog posting every 2 weeks on LinkedIn about AI and CE particularly, but CI and CE and
Love it.
CM.
I'm joining that channel now.
Been meaning to
So-
connect with Christine for this too. So it's a good reminder.
Customer education, customer marketing. There's a lot that's being used. There's also the presentation I'm doing on Thursday. I have a, in CS office hours style, I have a bunch of resources I'm including. So you'll see that too.
Look at the stuff that Salesforce is about to drop or is dropping too.
Yep, Salesforce is doing a lot in this. So a couple of things that I would say in response to the question, what can you do to help others? I'll kick off. We have a mock interview channel. When you're doing mock interviews, you give a mock interview. You learn so much when you hear someone else formulate their answers, and then you get a chance to do a mock interview, right? So you get to practice, you get to figure out your story, but you also learn so much when you're giving that interview, when you're basically receiving an interview, right? So really recommend doing that. Maybe there's a job that isn't right for you, but it's a job and you think, oh, this is interesting. Maybe there are others that might be interested. Go put it in the job search channel. Just share it with others, right? So, find ways to share with others as well. It's about creating that sort of kumbaya, community sort of thing. What kinds of things it sounds like using AI is something that's come up. What else have people been talking about? Hi,
Make
Sarah.
connections.
Oh, yeah. Well, so Christine, go ahead and finish your thought and then we'll go to Sarah.
I'm just making connections, whether it's through the Slack channels, through LinkedIn, however you meet people, because you never know how they can help you by introducing you to someone else, or how they can help you by introducing you within the organization, or just getting those connections going. I think it's probably one of the most important things to leapfrog over that like there are 800 applications. Right? If you can leverage the people that you know, or the people that you know, right? Again, any one first and second links are good options to get into, so that you can ask for those introductions if they don't already exist.
Yep. Great. That's great. Sarah?
And I'll piggyback off of Christine's here because we were in the same group, but on top of making those connections is working on your personal branding. I shared a quick story about how just making posts on LinkedIn and being a part of this group actually resulted in a company reaching out to the person that I met here saying, hey, this person, this Sarah seems to know her stuff. Can we get her an interview? It's about building that network, and putting yourself out there is the second part. Otherwise, people aren't going to know that you exist.
Yep.
So I'm going to jump in because I think Ty, you and I were talking about this, or Jane, the three of us were talking about this in our prep meeting, which is an often under leveraged resource is things exactly like what you're doing right now, which is going to office hours. UGR's got stuff, joining these Slack groups or these LinkedIn groups or things like that, where it's all about exposure, right? That person might not know you because they haven't worked with you before, so they can't necessarily vouch for your skill set, but they can watch you interact with other people, and how do you treat people in virtual interactions, and how are you thinking through things strategically, and what would your approach be to managing a book of business or handling an escalated customer, or all of those things, right? I promise you, as a hiring manager, the more groups I find, the more the more I'll dig into. If I don't know somebody, I'll go see, right, are they active in groups? Are they commenting on they're working through in their thought process? I don't do that for everybody, but it is a great way to level of exposure. And it's okay if you don't know all the answers, right? And then this isn't an exercise. If you don't know, you should be commenting, right? Don't have foot and mouth syndrome either, but like, this is a great opportunity for you to get your name recognized by a larger group, which, just by doing that, you're just going to naturally be invited into things that you probably didn't even know existed previously. So like Jan is one of those people who, has been a mentor for me going back several years back. Had we never met, I wouldn't be in this room with you right now. So, it's kind of one of those things, right?
You would
of where we
be,
are.
you
No,
would be in this room.
But in fairness, right, I think that's a really good call out of like, it's little things. Or if you really like thinking about your posting strategy on LinkedIn or Twitter, or like, pick a topic that you're really passionate about, take some time to do a little bit of research, and then add your flavor into it. Let people see how you think through managing the enterprise customers, or how would you use data to scale a CS team, or how would you approach, managing a team. So it's all really good things, but you proceed right with, like you would treat it if it was your own thing, right? And use that and use that. I know, and I don't recommend everybody has to post socially, but it is a great tool when used right to accelerate your exposure in the market. So thanks for bringing that up, Sarah.
And what other kinds of things came up that you were like, oh, wow, I didn't think of that. I'm going to write that down. Like, and did it make it into the notes? Like, what kinds of things, did anybody have like an aha moment? I know Ty was talking about ChatGPT and you using that, which I, get engaged in any new technology, but definitely AI, right? But what other things came up today?
I have a real quick one if I could.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the open to work banner on LinkedIn. I know a lot of people don't use it. I totally understand why. I can only put out my experience, which is when I'm looking for people to help recommend, I do look and see who's open to work. Recruiters do too, right? So if it's your first week, sure, I get it. But if you're past that, it's not going to hurt you to put that up, right? A lot of people are utilizing that to help fill roles.
I think too, right now, when there's just been so many layoffs, it's people have a different approach to it, a different attitude towards it than they may have had in the past. And so, there were, when that first came out, I think people were a little suspect of it, and recruiters weren't using it. They were thinking, oh, I want to find somebody who's in a role. Why do I want somebody who's been laid off, kind of thing? But yeah, people are definitely looking to it. Jillian, did you have something that you wanted to share?
Oh, I was just thinking about the fact, actually know somebody who is still in a role, and they put the banner on because so they're clearly not worried about the optics of it, and kind of curious to see if his own company like manager will notice or anything. Instead, that he's ready to like be more challenged and move up in his role. So there you go.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
That might be a way where you'll have a new opportunity to start looking very soon.
I know. Yeah, you got to wonder.
Yeah. All right. Sarah, and then Kathy.
First off, that's a really bold move. But you had previously asked what were some other interesting things that we brought up, and I just did a quick scroll through the groups, and it seems like a few other people came to this realization as well, as far as websites that you could be looking at for information on the companies that you are applying to, and not just Glassdoor and from a employee's perspective, but something that I think is really helpful is to look at it from a customer perspective. So websites like Capterra can be helpful to tell you how easy or how hard is your job going to be. If all of their clients are giving the software terrible reviews, saying that nothing works, it doesn't fit our need, then that can be a quick indication of this might be a challenging role because perhaps they're selling bad fit customers, or
Right.
you know, the product has some room for improvement, you know, stuff like that. So that can actually be a really telling website for information on a company that you're applying to.
Thank you. That's really great advice. I also just noticed in the notes over there about Mello Associates, and they actually have a whole database where you can upload your resume, and they particularly focus on customer success. And there may be some other ancillary roles that they do as well, but I know that they definitely have CS roles that they are searching for. Kathy?
Yeah, one thing that came up in our group just toward the end is using recruiters to help with, but we didn't have time to really get into it. But we talked about the advantages of that briefly, and I was wondering how to find a recruiter, not from a company, but just
yeah, you know, I'm not sure at this point there's more people looking than there are roles. I think sometimes it's about building relationships with recruiters and headhunters and things like that. I think right now, one thing that I've seen is Mello Associates, they are actually building up their database of folks, considering, you know, when tech will be hiring in even bigger numbers, because there are definitely some jobs out there. But I think otherwise it's about being noticeable to recruiters by having the right keywords in your LinkedIn. So if they're doing LinkedIn search and doing some things where if they're looking for you, you're easier to find. I think that's kind of more the strategy right now. I don't know if there's anybody else who disagrees with me on that front, but that's my take on it. All right. Well, no one's going to disagree. Does that sort of address you're good, Kathy?
yeah, don't find them, they'll find you, kind of.
in this market, I would say,
Okay.
in this market.
Yeah, that's
Trevor.
helpful.
Yeah, Trevor.
Yeah. One thing that someone brought up in my group, and they can get on and talk about it since it's their point, but I didn't know about it at all, was a tool like we talked about, like, you know, stalking the company, you know, typical looking up stuff, the reviews, etc. But also when it comes to like them in the news, like there's obviously the news tab on Google, but they brought up a tool that I thought was pretty interesting called Owler.
What is it?
Whoever it was, if you want to get on and talk about it, I thought it was a pretty good point.
Which one is it? Owler? AOWLER?
Yeah. Yeah, they said it's basically like a tool that scrapes company news and sort of compares it to competitors and everything else.
Oh, cool. Well, maybe it's somewhere here in the notes. I see Owler, AOWLER. Okay, cool. Well, that's a good tip then.
And then for my tip, one that I shared that I try to do still is when you network with people, make sure you have your ask, make sure you give something back. Your ask is a little more abstract. People tell you for your ask all the time, but more so think more deeply about, okay, I'm talking to this person because I want a job. Like, even if you're feigning it, why this person in particular? And then giving something back, even if it's small, not money, but like, you know, you see they're interested in something. Can you connect them to someone you know in that? Can you bring up a topic that they seem to be interested in and give them, I don't know, something cool that you know about it, or just something. So it's less of a taking relationship and it's a little bit more of a give and take.
That's always advisable. Always. Yep. And this is whether you're trying to network them because they're at a company that you're interested in, or if you're just networking generally, you know, if you're both looking for jobs and you're getting to know each other because one day there'll be a colleague in this universe of CS with you, right?
Yeah.
So always
they'll they'll remember it if you help them when they were struggling.
And we remember it too, right? So like it's always, you know, put out the energy that you want to be surrounded by. Always a good idea. Jen.
Hi. One thing that I do is I look up podcasts. So I'll go on Spotify and I'll look up the company, the CEO, the CEO, even maybe who you know your hiring manager might be, you know, the director of customer success. Sometimes they're a guest speaker on a podcast and you can search them up by name. This way you can get a feel what they get excited about, or then you can really listen to how the company culture is or how it's not. And it kind of gives me an idea that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. And if you're going to be interviewing, like something we were talking about, I think it was last week, the customer journey, the interview journey, like if you're going to be interviewing with executives or anybody on the team, if they've done a podcast, go and listen to it, get an idea of, you know, kind of how they talk about stuff, get some insights. It's great. Someone in the chat was asking about various communities. I think we've been posting some here. There's Thrive, which is kind of New York based, that used to be just for women, but is now expanded out to other places besides New York, and also not just women. Rev Genius is a little more focused on marketing and sales, but they also have a CS group there. CustomerEducation.org if you're more focused on customer education. CS Leadership Network has a job search channel. There's one that's more Canadian focused. What one is that? CSM Focus, I think, is the name of that one. Yeah. So there's a lot of different groups out there, definitely. And, you know, if there's jobs listed and things like that, look for that and try and help out. Philip, did you have something?
Now, this is kind of a slow play, low key, but for those of you that have graduated from college or maybe got your MBA, even if you can find a way to circle back and engage. I just got asked to give a presentation on intentional networking at my MBA program. That may not pay dividends right now, but anytime you connect with leadership of a business school and they like you and they like what you're putting down, that can translate. If they see your open to work banner, they may connect you to somebody that needs somebody that has the skills that you have. So there's a bunch of folds and creases you can find if you think about it, that yes, they take your time and your effort, but it's that intentional networking when you don't have an ask. Really pay dividends when you do.
Always good to network. And in fact, just from today's conversation, it made me think that we should do a session about networking. So maybe we'll see that coming up in September. You never know. All right. We've gone over, but I really appreciate so many people sticking around and continuing the conversation. And please continue the conversation. Wait, is that a book you're sharing with us, Eunice? What is it? I can't, it's blurry. Do you want to come off mute and tell us what it is? It's still blurry.
For some reason, I'm not getting the reaction to raise my hand. I apologize, everyone.
Okay. What is the book?
It's a book I'm reading right now. It's called The 2-Hour Job Search.
Oh.
Just wanted to share that. I don't know. It's by Steve Dalton, Dalton.
All right. Steve Dalton.
Yeah, for some reason it's blurry. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, probably because you have your blurred background.
That's correct. That's correct.
Dalton.
Dalton.
All right. And it's the 2-hour job search. I'm just typing that in. So it'll make it over into our Slack.
Beautiful. Using technology to get the right job faster. I'm currently using it. Yes, that's it. You've got it.
Oh,
Philip,
and Philip
you're the
has
man.
it too.
Thank
Excellent.
you, Philip.
You have to let us know if it actually works. I'd like to hear back from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Good.
Everyone,
Okay.
it's so strange. I'm putting myself out there. Thank you all. It's very nice meeting you all. Thank you very, very much for this.
Absolutely. Oh, Kim, do you want to say one more thing and then we'll sign off?
Yep. Yeah, I do. Thanks. So I'm putting in the chat right now a phenomenal podcast that I came across.
Oh, great.
By Natalie Fisher. Is anybody know Natalie? So it's called Get the 6-Figure Job You Love and Thrive. and she has like 170 episodes. The podcast I'm listening to right now is called The Whole Interview, and it's all about showing up as your whole authentic self for the conversation, and like getting out of the mindset that you have to over prepare and overthink and have all the right answers. You're just having a conversation to learn about the company, the role, is it the right fit for you, and then also see what you can contribute to the company, and if they're gonna engage as well. So it's just a very different approach to the interview process and really owning our awesomeness, if you will, right? We all have our awesomeness, and to kind of equalize the playing field with the folks that we're meeting with, and really walking away from those conversations with true connection, whether you get the job or not. And another nice way to go into the interviews is to learn about the position, and if it's not right for you, to recommend somebody through your network who could be. So that's another way we can help each other in this community too. As we get to know each other and we're doing our interviewing, we can, at the end of our interviews, say, you know what, this was a great conversation. If it doesn't work out, I would love to introduce you to, Jan Young. She's somebody I think would be phenomenal for you to talk to. So that's another way we can go into our conversations a bit more open to the experience and not feel so pressured about having to study for conversations. So, and
That's fantastic. Thank you. I took some of those from the notes and put it over in the meeting chat. So we'll get that transferred over to the Slack. That's a great way to finish things up. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to Jeremy and Ty. Thank you to everyone here. Next week, I will not be here, but Marianne, who you see here, Cynthia Silva, and Ashna Patel, they will be leading a session that's going to be sort of hearkening back to our book club, but also about sort of stacking habits and the habits that help you to create the best vision of yourself. If you can think of that as we can all create a vision of who we want to be in our identity. And there's some great stuff that I know that they've already been planning for next week. And then I'll be back the following week, and we're going to do that week. It's going to be about how to create a showcase and how to put together, like slides and things like that to show your thought leadership or your skills. So there's a lot of great stuff coming through that are helpful to people, whether you're job searching or if you're in the job. And that's what we're focusing on for the next few sessions right now. So Marianne, anything you want to say before we go about next week?
No, if you've read Atomic Habits, you already have a head start on next week, because we're going to use those habits to incorporate into our job search. Or if you're at a job where people have recently been laid off, you're left standing there, like how to deal with that and what to do in terms of how to stack habits and do things. There you go. Well done.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about our next book club. So I hope you guys come join our Customer Success Office Hours book club that starts in September. So there's still a lot of time to start that book. We'll talk about that next week though.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Really fantastic to see everyone here today.
Thanks,
all right.
Yeah.
Everyone have a great week.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Success Hour, formerly known as CS Office Hours. We regularly put out new content, so to be the first to know, like this episode, tap that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you soon.